Hey guys, what's up? It's munclesonkey and welcome back to Condemned to PVM. I know it's been a while and I'm sorry about that, but I am finally done with 120 Slayer, and that means that I can once again focus on some PVMing, which is what I have been doing lately, and I hope to get another episode out of this series fairly recently because I have been doing quite a bit of Nex and Kalphite King lately, so those are the bosses that I will be working on in the future. However, for this episode, I will be showing off Dagonoth Kings as well as Ascension legionaries. I did finish 2 more bosses, which means we have these 2 bosses done, and then we also have the TDs and the Glaciers done, which were in the last episode. So let's see how much I made from these bosses. First of all, we are going to go with the DKs, and one thing that I do have to warn you guys about is they are a lot more dragon hatchets that I managed to get as drops than you will see in this footage. However, I do have a clip of at least one of each Dagonoth King drop within the footage that you will see, which is all that matters. And unfortunately what happened is I got most of the drops while on my old computer while I was still fairly new to the Slayer, going into that 120 Slayer series, and I did upgrade my computer a couple months ago. However, a lot of these drops were obtained before I did upgrade my computer, and they were kind of lost in translation. I did upload quite a few clips to Dropbox, but unfortunately the Dagonoth King clips were lost. So a lot of these items you'll see, they have golden beams and stuff like that, and that wouldn't happen nowadays because these Dagonoth King rings are worth almost nothing, but at the time they still held a decent value. Unfortunately, I did not sell the Dagonoth rings at the time. If I had sold them when I got them as drops, I would have made a lot more, but oh well, what can you do about it? So I did get a lot of hatchets, and additionally all of these Dagonoths were done on Slayer task, so I got a lot of Slayer XP and I killed them a little bit faster than you would have if you just camped them normally. And it took a really long time to get the warrior ring. That was the last drop that I was waiting on, but it did eventually happen. Also, before anyone asks, the reason why the Dagonoth bones are noted on the ground is because I am wearing Fremennik Sea Boots 4, which is a reward from the Elite Fremennik Diaries, and after you complete those, you get boots which grant you bonus damage to Dagonoth Kings, as well as note all of the drops, at least when it comes to bones on the ground, so you don't have to spend extra yak scrolls making them. So the only sad thing about Dagonoth Kings is this used to be one of my favorite bosses in the game. Before the Evolution of Combat came out, this is my primary method of making money. I used to camp here all the time before EOC, and even after EOC when the hatchets were worth like 5 mil each, I was here quite a bit. And I've made hundreds of mils from Dagonoth Kings in the past. However, I probably will not be doing Dagonoth tasks here anymore, and that's because the hatchets are just so cheap. Now, the warrior rings and the berserker rings and all the other rings aren't even worth mentioning. They're pretty much worthless at this point because they're just so cheap, and the hatchets have dropped so much in price. And I think a large part of that is because since the boss title came out and a lot of people are going for that final boss, Dagonoth Kings are one of the fastest ways to get those boss kills because you can kill them really fast, or you could even mass them and just mass up those boss kills really quickly to get up to the 7k. And so it just happens that these drops are coming into the game more and more because a lot of people are killing these Dagonoth Kings, and it winds up that the hatchets are very cheap, so they're really not worth doing anymore in terms of money. There's still decent Slayer XP, and it's still good profit for a Slayer task, so if you enjoy doing the Slayer task, it's not that bad of a thing to do. It's well over 100k Slayer an hour, so pretty good XP. However, in terms of money, it's really not worth doing anymore, which is sad to see because DKs were such good money for so long. But who knows, maybe the drop tables will get updated eventually and we could see a return of the Dagonoth Kings, but right now with the current price of hatchets, it's just not cutting it. But luckily I did sell all of these hatchets before the massive crash, so I still made a really good amount from the DKs. Alright, looking at the final lootations from the Dagonoth Kings, I got pretty lucky when it comes to rings, even though the rings admittedly didn't sell for very much. I managed to get 4 Berserker rings, 1 Seer's ring, 1 Warrior's ring, 1 Archer's ring, so the most of the Berserker rings, which even now are worth the most, but that's not really saying much, as well as 11 Dragon Hatchets, which sold for over 2 mil each, all of them, because I sold them a little while ago, so that was really nice. 2 Mud Battle Staffs. Additionally, I got 5 Circle Bows, but they are not shown here because I don't really consider them a drop because they're about 10k, but about 782 kills is what it took for me to finally get the warrior ring. That was the last drop that I was working on. However, with all of the dragon hatchets I got, I don't even mind that it took that long. I got really lucky. In 782 kills, you should expect more along the lines of 7 dragon hatchets, but I got 4 extra, so hey, I'm okay with that. It just happened on Slayer task anyway, so I decided to roll with it. When it came to the legions, I also did this one on Slayer task. Almost everything I've done so far has been a Slayer monster. These two, as well as the TDs and Glade Swords, is just crazy. That just goes to show how much I love Slayer. And admittedly, I got very, very lucky on this particular crossbow. That has not been the case with all of the crossbows, admittedly. But this crossbow that I made was really lucky and by far my most profitable crossbow of all time. And I believe I've made 4 total ones now. So it only took me 1 Slayer task to make the bow, which is always really nice to get, because sometimes it can take you over a Slayer task and then you have to kill the legions and not get Slayer XP, which is kind of disappointing. But it didn't take very long at all, only about 2 hours to make this crossbow. One thing that's really sped it up is being able to use the Steel Titan with the Steel Titan update, so it now automatically attacks stuff itself, as well as being able to use the max guild portal that teleports you directly to the legions. That probably took the time it took to do the task, probably cut it about in half. Maybe not that much, but it saves so much time with that max guild portal and the Steel Titan. I absolutely love doing this crossbow, and it was a lot of fun. So for the Legios, obviously 1 Ascension crossbow. I also listed 7 Serenic Scales because that's their only other special drop, and it took me 193 kills, which is not that many, but again, I got really lucky on this task. You're not always going to make this much. And unfortunately, Ascension crossbows have dropped, but at the time when I sold the crossbow, it was worth quite a bit more than they were now, so I made some really good money. First, getting into the Dagonoth Kings price check, this is all the loot that I picked up from Dagonoth Kings, and that 2.9 mil worth of cash is the Earth Talismans. I sold them to a friend during the double XP weekend who wanted them to make Moss Titans, but everything else, that is all the loot that I got from the 782 Dagonoth Kings. That is not the hatchets or rings, so this is all the regular drops. And for the Legions, this is the drops that I got other than the Ascension crossbow. Adding it all up, I got quite a bit of stuff. 7 Serenic Scales, a whole ton of those Ascension shards, which sell for a really good amount, and 3 Ascension keys as well, which wasn't that much of a troll. Sometimes you can get really troll with the Ascension keys because they have a beam, and then you think you got a signet, but you didn't really. And also look at those charms, almost 500 crimsons and almost 300 blue charms. That is a lot of charms. That really adds up. Legions are very underrated charms and one of the best ways of getting them in the game. Now we go into the final price check. The Ascension crossbow there is just for show. I already sold the crossbow, and if you do want to see the video where I make the crossbow and I sell it, that will be linked on screen in the description. I made a lot of money, so viewer discretion is advised, but I ended up profiting 104 million from that crossbow, which is just insane, and it also was worth quite a bit more. I believe it sold for 141 mil, so it's worth a little bit more than it is now, luckily, but I'm still very glad I have my Ascensions, and I don't mind they went down so much because I love them. And also the 20 mil cash is from selling the Dragon Hatchets as well as the DK rings. I got about 1 mil from all of those rings total, and the hatchets sold for about 20 mil flat. So that was some pretty decent profit from them. I did sell all of that stuff during my selling Slayer tab video. So that's about all for this episode. Thank you guys a lot for watching. Just remember to check out that Legions video if you are interested on exactly how the Legions worked or how I made that much money from them. That video will explain all of it. And I hope to be doing KK or Nex in the next one, or possibly even both. We'll see, but I should have the next Condemned to PVM episode out in a lot less of a wait than this one was. I apologize for how long it took, but I was focusing on Slayer, not PVMing. Thank you guys for understanding and watching, and farewell.